all the other stocks. Remember, Bajaj Auto hit its fresh all-time high today of 12,054 rupees. Remember, earlier this year, in March itself, Rajiv Bajaj, the MD of Bajaj Auto, said when they had come up with their buyback plan that he thinks the fair value of the stock is 12,000. Lo and behold, 12,000 is here. Today, the stock has crossed that level. So first listen into that snippet of that conversation, and then perhaps we get in Rajiv Bajaj to give us an updated target price, so to say, on Bajaj Auto.
In terms of fair valuation, I mean, without taking any names, all I would say is that in my head, I have a basket of companies that I think Bajaj Auto can be compared with in terms of its performance, in terms of its PE, in terms of its future prospects, let's say, etc. And frankly, to me, although the stock has moved up from 4,000 through 6,000 to 8,000, in my head, and as I said, I'm a layman in these matters, something closer to 12,000 sounds fair value, as you called it. So who knows, there might be another buyback in the near future.
Okay, all right. That was in March of 2024. In fact, let's now cut across to Parikshit Luthra for an exclusive conversation with Bajaj Auto's MD Rajiv Bajaj. Parikshit.
Right, Mr. Bajaj, thank you very much for joining us right now. Yes, in that interview to us in March, you had given us a prediction, maybe jokingly at that time, thinking that 12K might be the right fair value for the stock. What do you think has driven the growth of the company till this point?
It's funny, Parikshit, because when I actually joked about my retirement, people took it seriously. And when I spoke seriously about the fair value of the stock, you seem to suggest I was speaking in jest. But coming back to your question, after I said what I said at that time, Rakesh said to me that both he and our CFO Dinesh received many calls from analysts, and the common theme was the question that what is it you guys know that we don't, So that question comes back to my mind right now, that what is it that they know now that has made 12,000 the price for this stock? And to me, really, it's, we've executed well on all those things that you and I discussed. The Freedom is out there in the commuter motorcycle segment. The new Pulsars are doing really well in the sports segment. As you may have seen, I think you were there day before when Rakesh rolled out the new Triumphs in the premium segment. You know how well the Chetak is doing. You know how well the three-wheeler electric has done in the last 6 months. And while with exports, we are still missing out on Nigeria, but the rest of the world is holding steady. So, as I had said before, we are really firing on all cylinders.
Right, and HSBC has raised its target price from 11,000 to 14,000. That's an increase of 27% for the Bajaj Auto stock. How do you think things will move on from here? And your thoughts on HSBC's latest report?
Well, what I'd like to say in that context is this, that if we step back and kind of look at the big picture of the domestic two-wheeler market, then, there's many ways to segment it depending on what attribute one is looking at. But one very simple, almost simplistic way, Parikshit, is to just break up everything into the commuter space and, let's say, the sports space, So in the commuter space, I would count about 700,000 motorcycles, as I did before when we discussed the Freedom. But I was also add to that about 500,000 to 600,000 scooters, because scooters are essentially just city commuting vehicles. So that's a market size of 1.2 to 1.3 million vehicles each month. And the balance 300,000 motorcycles are, let's say, the sports segment. So if you look at our position till last year, for example, in this humongous domestic commuter segment of about 1.2, 1.3 million vehicles, what was our presence? Our presence was just about 40,000 vehicles, primarily with the Platina motorcycle, and we had virtually no scooters to speak of. Chetak this time last year was perhaps 4 or 5,000 vehicles a month. I think what has happened in the last 6 months, the most significant development now is that both the Freedom as a CNG motorcycle and the Chetak as a electric scooter have both really gained enormous traction. I had said to you earlier this month that after doing close to 10,000 vehicles last month, I'd like to think we can do closer to 20,000 this month. We are hoping to hit 20,000. It's going to be a bit of a struggle, it seems, but we won't be very far from it. Chetak, we are at full tilt as far as capacity is concerned. We are just about crossed 20 and we are struggling to push it above 20. So suddenly from a situation 6 months back when Freedom was not yet in production and Chetak was just about ramping up, you might well see a September in which both put together would be about 40,000 vehicles or a little more. And I think suddenly, at least we feel this, I don't know whether the street sees it like that, that suddenly between these two brands, we have this enormous runway stretching from now 40,000 Platina and 40,000 of this. So let's say 80,000, 90,000 vehicles a month, all the way up to 1.2, 1.3 million. And it's a marketing aphorism that in any segment, the market leader has 40% share and the number two would typically have 20% share. So even if I were to look at it from a 20% opportunity, the question we are asking ourselves within Bajaj Auto now is that in the domestic commuter space, can we do 250,000 vehicles between the Chetak and the Freedom? And why not? So now that's not something for which, you can ask me whether we have a timeline and we have a capex plan. It's not, as crystallized as that. But I think that is the potential before these two brands, and perhaps that is beginning to be sensed.
Okay, so in March you had, and clearly you were well aware of where things will move on in the next 6-7 months. So you said in March that the fair value is around 12,000. Heart of hearts, what are you now hoping for in terms of the next fair value?
Well, again, as I said in March, that I'm quite a layman in these terms. But again, if I go back to both seeing our own situation internally, that we've really executed quite well in the last 6 months. So we've materialized a lot of the potential and are well on our way, as opposed to 6 months back when it was still, kind of just brimming with potential. And if I were to again compare with the new market scenario, because the market has also moved up, so that's no credit to us. And if I look at the basket of companies I was comparing with, then it seems to me as ludicrous, perhaps as 12,000 sounded at a time when we were closer to half that number. It seems to me that something closer to 20,000 is not out of the reckoning. At least in mathematical terms, one can justify it. Of course, the subjective, qualitative, and the sentiment side of things is a different matter.
All right, 20,000 on Bajaj Auto is the new target coming in from Rajiv Bajaj himself, saying that may sound ludicrous now, but given the quantitative parameters and the growth targets that the company has, along with the overall upliftment in the market itself, 20,000 is the target. So he had told us 12,000. The stock was closer to 7,000-8,000 odd in March itself. And now, as the 12,000 mark is here on Bajaj Auto, almost here, he's speaking about 20,000. Let's see whether that happens or not. But keep an eye out on that one. There has been a recovery for the markets. Take a short break, come back, focus on another important discussion. We have the medical devices industry as it's seeing its strong PE interest. What's keeping this industry abuzz? We have a special discussion lined up for you.